Okay, like I said, this is not a super complicated sugya, but it is very practical. So let's just try to get it. So Menacha Lamed Bet Amud Bet from Amar Rav Chelbo. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, sure. Where is it?
Lamed Bet Amud Bet, the same place that I just said it was.
That makes sense.
Right in the middle of the page. Amar Rav Chelbo.
Amar Rav Chelbo.
It's really annoying thing.
Chazitia, Amar Ana Chazitia L'Rapuna, Yehud Yitiv, Afura
The Sefer Torah Alei.
Yes.
So what happened? Rav Chelbo said, "What's Ana Chazite? I saw Rav Huna. What is Havei Yativ? We're sitting Apuraya on a bed. On a bed usually. Puraya is usually a bed, but a bench, a bed doesn't really matter. Yeah. And what was on it? The Sefer Torah there. There was a Sefer Torah there.
That's a big roof. So V'hadar Yitiv V'meita K'savar.
So what happened? First he turned over something, put it on the floor, put the Sefer Torah on top of that, and only then did he sit down. Meaning he refused to sit down on the bench, the bed, mashayeh, that had the Sefer Torah. That had the Sefer Torah. Okay, yeah. So why did he do this? Right? Why did he do this? Guys, why did he do this?
Because they're all in the same thing as the Torah.
Yeah, can you read that inside?
Oh, okay.
Ksavar.
Ksavar, Asr Leishev Al Gavei Meita Sefer Torah Manach Alev. It is Asr to sit on a spot where a Sefer Torah is on top of it.
A mita is a bed, but fine, yeah.
So Pliga Rabba Bar Chana, Damar Rabba Bar Chana. So argues Rabba Bar Chana.
This argues on, right? Meaning he argues with, yeah.
Chana, son, right?
Rabba Bar Chana.
Right.
Rabba, the son of Chana.
Right. Our Leilvana, Mutter, Leishev Al Gavei Meita
Could be.
Sefer Torah. It is actually mutter to sit on this place. The im, the shachach adam lomar, and if the person wants it to say, Maseh
Rabbi Elazar.
Shahaya Yoshev Al Mita, V'niskar Shesefer Torah Manach Aleh, Nishmat Yeshev Al Gavei Karka.
As they tell this story, the Elazar once was sitting on a bench, and and he realized there was a Sefer Torah on it. So what did he do? He he went and sat on the floor, right? Vidome Hikisho Nachash.
Right. And
he seemed like someone who was bitten by a snake. Like that's how traumatized he was, right? So he says, doesn't that imply that Elazar thinks it's usher, right? Because Elazar here was totally thrown off by it. So he says, no, maybe Hazim Sefer Torah Gabe Karka Have. Right? I mean, what really bothered him in that story wasn't that he was on the same bench as the Sefer Torah, but the Sefer Torah was on the floor, and that was really what threw him. Right? So you have two positions here. Right? One position is that it's permitted to sit on the bench with the Sefer Torah, but
not on the floor.
But the Sefer Torah shouldn't be on the floor. The other is that it's usher to sit on the same bench as the Sefer Torah. Okay? First, before we try to understand the halacha, let's just see the other relevant Gemara. The other relevant Gemara is in Moed Katan, Chaf Hey and Aleph. What's going on in the Gemara in Moed Katan? Guys who were Shanabet guys who did Moed Katan last year.
Depends what part of Moed Katan you want to talk about.
I gave you this morning. This is not a guess.
Turning over the
It was the second source. This is not a guess. Yosef.
Apply what part of Moed Katan.
What? There was a rocket. I got it. You're all forgiven.
I know you're talking about the morning. The portion of morning and Teir and Kriya.
Sure.
Yeah. So what is going on in this Gemara? I'm not asking you to guess. I'm asking you the Gemara I gave you in the Makaras. What does it say?
Is it like for turning over the bed?
So the Gemara is in the middle. Okay, turn to the Gemara in Chaf Hey and Aleph. So the Gemara says that what happened?
I didn't read it.
Gewalt.
Kinach
nafshei di Rav Huna. So there's 3 lines down in the middle-sized lines, Chafem and Aleph and Moed Katan. Ki nachnashe de Rav Huna, when Rav Huna died, Sabr l'asuve Sefer Torah apuraya. They were thinking about putting the Sefer Torah on the bed that he was lying on, right? Meaning I would say coffin, but it's not a coffin. Anyone's been here to a funeral in Israel? It's a bed, essentially, right? It's open. There's no casket.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Right? It's like it looks like a stretcher.
Put them in the talit.
Right?
That's it.
Yeah, you wrap the person in a tallis. It's the first time you go. Yes. The first time you go, it is a bit disturbing. I'm just warning you. If you ever go to a funeral in Israel and you're like used to funerals in America, where like it's in a casket and sort of feels removed, and then here you come and you see the form of the body wrapped in a tallis, and then they sort of like lower it, or if they're not so good, drop it into the. Some of them are not so good. Right? Not everyone knows what they're doing. Well, what?
If the best way to have to do it is the body open, why don't we?
It's illegal. It's illegal. So in America,
an open casket at a funeral, no, it's not.
No, but to have them to not have a casket.
I'm talking about an open casket. If
That doesn't help. The important thing is the bottom. The important thing is the bottom. Right. So that's why.
You just said you feel removed because you don't see the body.
No. The reason that in halacha we don't put them in is not because you want to see the body. That happens to be what happened. Like that's the result of seeing the body on a bed. It's because you want the body to be touching the dirt. Right. It's the bottom is the. That's why ours either are pine, which decompose very quickly, or they're trapdoors in a lot of them. Like as soon as it hits the ground, it just opens. Right. There are different ways that we do this, but in Israel we don't do that. But anyways, so on that bed they wanted to put a Sefer Torah. Now, why would they want to put a Sefer Torah? This was something that sometimes happened in funerals. Why would you put a Sefer Torah near the bed, near the body? Why would you do that? What? They don't bury it, right? So it's a statement that they would say, right? As the Gemara says in Bava Kama, right? Yud Zayin. Basically, it was a statement of Ki imzu b'ashakasav bazu, right? It was a way of saying this person kept everything in there. Right, it was a sign of respect. So they put it on the bed, not next to it, but they put it on the bed with the dead body. So Amar Lahu Rav Chisda said to him, Milta de b'chayelo svirale. He thought this was asur, right? In his life, he thought it was asur to be on a bed with a Sefer Torah. Hashta leikom elefetle. So now he's dead. Now you're going to make him do what he thought was asur. The Amar of Dachliva and Chazita Ravuna de Bayametev Apurai Vamanech Sefer Torah Alei V'Kavkada Arav Otiv Sefer Torah Alei, and then he brings the whole story that we have from Menachot. Alma Ksavar Asur Leishav Agavimida Sefer Torah Menuch Alei. Okay, so these are two sources in the Gemara. Now, if I ask you, first let's just get Psak out of the way. Which one of these do you think we paskin like, based on the Gemara? Which would you guess? Why do you think we paskin we can't?
Oh, just because the people act now.
Good, right? The Yeshua thinks that we paskin that way because that's what people do, right? People say, right? You have a chumash on the bench, don't do it, right? Pick it up, put it, right? So we must paskin that way. Good, yeah. From the Gemara, what do you think?
We learned that it only works for like a clock.
So we'll get to what it means. First, we'll get in a minute to what we're talking. Let's just try to get the clear, right, psak issues down. Okay, what do you think? So, based on our practice, you assume that we paskin it's asur and that we expand it to not just a Sefer Torah. Good. Yesh bazamashu, but we'll see. Right? From the Gemara, what would you think?
That it's machlokas.
Good. It's a machlokas in the Gemara. How do you think we paskin?
It seems like it's based on a story, though. Like the whole thing. It's like, do we do it or not?
Is that better or worse?
That's not very strong.
What? So, actually the opposite. In general, the rule in the Gemara is that the strongest type of proof is a story, because it's evidence of practice. It's not just a theoretical position, it's evidence of practice. So the fact that the record of it is story is in fact one of the things that pushes some of the Rishonim to say that we paskin l'chumra, right? Why based on Moed Katan might you say we don't paskin l'chumra? Well, they didn't, but what was how did they express it? It wasn't a havamina. It was he held it was asur, not it is asur. It's he held it was asur, so we shouldn't do that for him, right? Right, which might sound like he held it was asur, so you're not. But maybe we don't. So if you look at Tosos in Menachos, so Tosos says. Look at the Tosfos de Amar, he says, near the halacha ki Rabbi Yochanan. Now there are other reasons you might paskin, which is simply we have general rules of psak, but I don't expect you to know those bal peh, right? Who we paskin like in the Gemara. Tosfos writes, near the halacha ki Rabbi Yochanan l'gabe Rav, l'Rav Huna, dafil l'gabe Rav Rabbe halach k'moto, k'damar v'talmidi Rav Huna lo sabrei kavasei d'vay le'suve sefer Torah puraya, etc. He says, he thinks that we paskin l'kula. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan, so Tosfos just says, because look, Rabbi Yochanan is a really important person, and in general, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan, and it sounds like in the Gemara Moed Katan that we don't paskin Rav Huna paskind. Don't sit on it, but we don't. Right, so Tosfos paskins l'kula, right, that it is actually permitted, even a Sefer Torah mamish, not like Svarim. Like a Sefer Torah straight up, you're allowed to sit on the bench with a Sefer Torah. Okay? Who doesn't paskin this way? Take a wild guess. I gave it to you. The Rambam, thank you. The Rambam, the Rif, both paskin. Not this way. Who wants to read the Rambam? Who's the Rambam at? David, you have the Rambam. Right? Elchos Tefillin, Mezuzah, V'Sefer Torah, Perek Yud, Halacha Vav. Right, the Rambam paskins. L'chumra.
He says, Lo yochad adam Sefer Torah v'zro'o, v'yikanes bo levit hamerchatz, o levit hakisei, o levit hakevarot.
Okay, what does that mean?
So a guy should not be holding a Sefer Torah in his arms and enter the wash house or the bathroom or the cemetery. Afal pi shehu karuch b'mitachot, even if it's wrapped in like a cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The natun letoch hatik shelo, and he should put it inside of a bag.
Let me make sure this is the right Rambam. Yeah, continue. I think this is the right Rambam. I may have miswrote it.
Okay.
I hope not.
Okay, I think I got the right one. What you said.
I think so. Yeah.
V'lo yikra bo ad sheyarchik arba amot min hakever.
Yeah, I think it's the right one. Yeah.
And he should not. Yikrabo. He should not.
You shouldn't learn it, right? You can't learn.
Open it up and
Yeah. Right. You can't open it near a kever. Right. We don't learn right in a cemetery. Just like you don't wear tzitzis, right? You know, loag larash, things like that.
Okay.
You know this. You've been to funerals. You have your tzitzis out. You know this.
You
Yeah.
don't have anything else?
No, it's usher.
Do they say it's
It's
like
a Gemara. It's a Gemara. It's called because you're mocking the dead.
Yeah.
What that means, good question. But
Okay. So
yes, as the Gemara says, it's loag larash. Yes.
consider four more.
This is not like some weird Kabbalistic. I mean, it is a weird thing, but it is in the Gemara. It is actually halakha.
Kabbalistic, but it's in the Gemara.
I didn't say it was Kabbalistic. I said it's weird. It's not Kabbalistic. It's just weird. Okay? What? It's just weird. I don't know what to. It does sound a bit mystical, but no. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't sound mystical.
Four amalot from the kever, omen hamayit, or omen behakisei, or if it's you have to be four amalot from the kever, or from the maid, or from the bathroom. Lo ya'echos hasefer kishehu arum, and he should not hold a sefer when he's naked. V'asur le'shev al mitash she'sefer Torah, and it's asur to sit on.
Good. So the Rambam paskins l'chumra, right? And the Beis Yosef says that we should be machmir, right? Because he says the Rambam and the Ravid are machmir, and he notes that it sounds like in Tosfos in Moed Katan that he's also machmir. So he says if Tosfos in Moed Katan is machmir and the Rambam is machmir, probably we're machmir against Tosfos in Menachos. Okay, fine. If I ask you now, so now let's try to understand this halacha. Why is it usher? If it's usher, why is it usher? If it's not usher, why is it not usher? Right. Again, I don't think this is like super complicated conceptually, but what is it? Good, so kavod, right? Pachot yoter, right? It's some version of kavod. Right now, David, from the Rambam, give me proof that this is like a kavod-based halacha.
That there are other things that wouldn't be kavod that he.
Yeah, he groups it together with a bunch of other halachos that are about kavod, right? Don't hold the Sefer Torah when you're naked, right? Which is clearly like a degrading thing to do.
You
Things
have
like
to bend down with the Sefer Torah either. Like, say something fall, you yourself can. Okay, I had it where the yad fell off the Torah, and I went to pick it up, but they told me not to crouch. Someone else came and picked it up for me.
That could be just because you were going to drop.
Drop the Sefer Torah. Yeah, I think that was more of a practical thing. Okay. Now, basically, I think everyone agrees to this point, but I think we still have to ask two questions. One is, okay, then why would anyone disagree with that? Right? The second is, I think we need to be careful, right? Because there are two ways you could phrase this honor thing, right? At least. One is positively and the other is negatively. Okay? What do I mean by that?
Let's keep.
It's a good thing to
It's better to do it, but you don't have to.
No, that's...
If you don't have it, it's
No, let's try it differently. Right? Meaning, one might be... Meaning, either... I can phrase this two ways. One is, I can't sit on a bench with a Sefer Torah because it degrades the Sefer Torah. The other is,
you're not good enough.
I'm obligated to have the Sefer Torah elevated l'kavod a Sefer Torah. Right? Those are related but not identical. Right? Those are related, not identical models. Now, who might argue along that line? Who might be arguing along that axis? Think about the 2 days in the Gemara. Right? Think about what the 2 days in the Gemara might hang on. Right? What are the 2 days in the Gemara? One is...
I don't remember the names, but the guy who when he saw the Sefer Torah on the floor and was like appalled by it. So that's like you can't...
Right, meaning everyone agrees that what, right? That Daya says, you definitely can't have it on the floor. Right? Everyone agrees on the floor, and he was appalled. That's a good word, right? It's a good word for this. He was appalled by the fact that it was on the floor. Right? He doesn't think you can't sit on a bench with it, but he thinks it can't be on the floor. What does he think this is about?
That's
elevation.
Right? No. The one who says it can't be on the floor, but you are allowed to sit next to it. Right? It sounds like he just said, you can't degrade the Sefer Torah. It's not that I have to honor it, I can't have it on the floor. Right? The other Shita, Yesh Ladun, right? It could be that he thinks, no, it's not just that you can't put it on the floor, I need to actively elevate it, or he thinks that
having it sitting on the same bench as you is degrading.
Exactly. Or this is also degrading. It's right. Are they arguing, right? Fundamentally, is it about degradation or a positive obligation to honor the Sefer Torah, or are they arguing about degree? Meaning, right? At what point does it cease being degrading to the Torah? Now, lamai nafkamina, right? How could I even test that? Because they sound almost identical. But what type of nafkamina might I expect? Right? What type of difference might I expect? Again, these are like I said, there's not a huge sugya, but I think we can pick out some things. What might I expect? What differences might there be?
Between a Sefer Torah and other Svarim, maybe.
Passive respect versus like active respect.
Yeah, but so what? Yeah.
Then you go out of your way to show respect.
Good. So how would that play itself out?
I mean, like, I don't like the tourist walks by, you to actively follow it.
So there are other related halacha, but on this halacha, what would it look like? What might it look like? So I'll throw out one potential nafkamina. We'll look at it, okay? When we say we can't put it on the bench, so how high does it have to be? Right? Meaning, is it that it just can't be on the bench, or can't be on the bench as a stand-in for, I need to elevate it? And depending on the shear, you might start seeing, right? Meaning, if you just think you can't sit on the same bench, so it's basically symbolic, right? Like, it can't be on the same bench as me. As long as I'm not sitting on the same level as it, so like, we're fine. If you think it's kavod, then what are you going to start seeing? What do you expect?
You have to actually keep it higher.
Higher, and then what types of shiurim are you going to expect to see? 3 tvachim, 10 tvachim, meaning the different shiurim in halacha, which are, why would I say 10 tvachim? What would drive me to say 10 tvachim?
Well, it's a significant measure.
Yeah, specifically, what type of significant measure? It's sukkah, it's rishos harabim, meaning it's rishuyos. I mean, what is 10 tvachim? 10 tvachim means I put it in a different space than me. Not just, I'm not next to it, but it's, right? 10 tvachim means it's in a different makom. Right? If you start seeing poskim who say, it's not just that I can't sit on the same bench as it, but you have to elevate it. Right? 10 tvachim, that seems to be that they're going more in the direction that it's not about degrading it. Right? It's that you have a positive obligation to elevate it. Now, let me just read you a Tosfos in Moed Katan. Now, tell me what his Havamina was and what his Maskana was. Okay? It's a short Tosfos. He says like this. According to the Shita that it's usher to sit on it, he says, V'nireh Da'afilu ha-sefer Torah munach bigavoa mimenu lo sharei. It seems from this that it's usher even if you're on the same bench and the Sefer Torah is above you, meaning even if it's slanted. Right? It's slanted. It's still usher. Right? He says that's what it sounds like, because otherwise, right, you could have solved these problems by saying making a slanted bench. Right? And that was never a havamina. Okay? But what is Tosafos' havamina? Why would he have thought, right? Let's go through his logic. Right? He clearly had a havamina that if I'm sitting on the same bench, but it's physically above me, right, that would be fine. Right? What was his havamina? Why is that okay?
Because it's not degrading, it's still higher.
Right, you'd say, because in the end of the day, if it's above me, right, that is, right, it's not degrading, it's a sign of honor. But what's he saying? In the end of the day,
it's the negative part.
Right, meaning if I'm on the same bench, right, you could ironically come up with a case where I'm sort of showing it respect because I let it be above me, but I'm still degrading it because, like, right?
You're on the same.
Like, I didn't actively elevate it. It's just like, I'm sitting on the bench. It happens to be at an angle, right? We're on a seesaw, right? You can imagine. There's not really covered, right? Right? I'll put the Sefer Torah on the seesaw. Mamela, it'll always be above me. No, that doesn't, right? You can sort of see, like, it's not, all that proves is that you're fatter than the Sefer Torah. Like, it's not right? It's not like I'm okay. So if you look at the Beis Yosef here, the Beis Yosef gives you a nice summary of this. And of the different shitot. Okay, he writes like as follows. He says, "Because about Tosos, beperik elu megalchen, midula osif sefer Torah bigavoa mimenu near shafilu sefer Torah munach bigavoa mimenu also adkan." Right, Tosos, as we just saw, says it doesn't help to put it above you on the same bench. But he says, "I will be Yerushalmi perik mishameso." If you look in the Yerushalmi in Brachos, Garsinan lo yeshev adam al gabe mita she sefer Torah munach alei im hayanadun al gabe davar acher mutar. The Yerushalmi says you can't sit on the same bench as a Sefer Torah, but if it's on something else, it's mutter. Ad kama, how high is that? Rabbi Abba b'shem Rav Huna, tefach. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rabbi Zera, kol shehu. So Rabbi Abba says it has to be a tefach, Rabbi Zera says kol shehu, meaning put a piece of paper under it. Right? V'zeu. Now what would you say from that? If you say it just, a kol shehu, just a little bit, or tefach, which is almost an insignificant halachic measure, right, what does it sound like?
It's just the lack of...
Yeah, right? You don't degrade it. I mean, put anything there, right? Put anything there, and that's fine. I mean, put a nominal sign, right? Nominally show that you are trying to put the Sefer Torah in a place where it's not equivalent to you, and that's it.
Something a significant thing like a tefach, that might be kavod.
Right, maybe a tefach. Maybe you'll say that's the difference between kol shu and tefach, even though tefach is not usually a shear. Because look what the Beis Yosef himself says. So he writes, first he quotes Rabbeinu Manoach, v'lo if shelav is the paskul chumra chen das arayvit because v'agos v'me'amakom tefach v'zever munach alei mutter. He said, okay, it's a little bit of a suffix, fine. And he writes, v'li nireh, the Beis Yosef himself says, I think, d'roi lahachmir lahatchich she'makom ha'sefer Torah gavo asar tvachim. I think, misvara, it should be 10 tvachim. V'lo yichos migimel tvachim. Or at least 3. D'chol batzer me'achid lo chashuv gavoa klal. Gavova klal, because less than 3 is not height. So what is the Beis Yosef? Right? What Beis Yosef says, really, I think, he has no source for this. But he says, I think it should be 10 tvachim. And again, what is 10 tvachim in halacha? It's different rishus. Right? It's different rishus. You might have thought, right? Again, I think the Beis Yosef feels like this halacha is not just about lack of degradation. Right? It's the fact that, according to the shita, that I'm not allowed to sit on the same bench is because, like, I need to set the Sefer Torah apart. And he says that's probably 10 tvachim. Right? Again, the amazing thing about Yosef here is he has no makor. Right? He says it intuitively. Right? I think that if there's a shear, it should be 10. And he says, if not 10, it's 3. Why 3? What's his logic for 3?
3 is the lowest halachic height considered to be anything of a height.
Correct. And it's, first of all, it's the lowest thing, which is a height in halacha. But what else is it? It's the, when you have a halacha of karka, it's the only thing. After 3 tvachim, gimel is, because of lavud, is still considered karka. Right? Anything under 3 is still considered the ground from a halachic perspective.
So it's still considered part of the bench.
Correct. It's still good, right? So what's his svara? He's like, either it's a different rishus in a positive sense, or at least it has to be off the bench, right? However you define that. Does that mean 10 tvachim, which is different rishus, or does it mean not the bench? Right? His point is, it can't be just nominal. It can't be symbolic. Right? The Sefer Torah has to actively be in a different place than you. And again, like I said, the difference between degradation and active kavod might sound like very, very narrow, but I think this is the most likely nafkamina. Is that if you paskin like the Yerushalmi, right, that it's just a kol shehu, it's a nothing, right? It's symbolic, right? That's saying like, whatever, it's like, it's pasnish, right? I know you don't like Yiddish. It's just wrong, right? It's just wrong to sit on the same bench as the Sefer Torah, right? So do something to distinguish it. But if you think that this is a halacha, that you have to actively be mechaved a Sefer Torah, so then you're going to start like the Beis Yosef, saying it's about separating the reshuyos, right? Putting in 10 tvachim, 3 tvachim at least, right? Again, he has no makor for this. His logic is one that's off limits. It's either 3 or 10, right? Because those are the two shirim where you start talking about setting things apart. Okay. Now, what is clear? What is absolutely clear from the Gemara? What type of sefer are we talking about?
Torah.
Sefer Torah, mamish, v'klafa dio, right? Meaning, Sefer Torah, pshuto kimashmao. Right? Exactly what we're talking about. What would you say about other svarim?
What's the question?
What?
Well, first of all, if it's about cloth or not, or God's name or not, or...
So there's two ways of thinking about it. One is, right, what might be relevant?
Hashem's name?
Okay, spell it out.
Yekevavke.
Okay, fine. Let's try it differently. Why would you be makil? What would be the logic to be makil? Why is there a huge yacht here just sitting here? Yeah.
It's still degrading Hashem's name.
Why would you be makil, I said? Why would you be lenient?
Oh, lenient.
Avi.
Kavod, they give the Torah to Sefer?
Because?
Because the Torah's, this God certain sense of kavod intrinsic in the identity of it.
Yeah, meaning...
Has a higher level of kedusha.
Yeah, meaning a Sefer Torah is kadosh. Right? It's a big machlokes whether other svarim have that kedusha. So one possibility would be to say this hangs on, or really, to put it differently, maybe this question hangs on whether svarim, which are not a Sefer Torah, have kedusha or not. Right? But you might go in the direction that Joel says, which is what?
Kavod Hashem.
Right, meaning maybe it's not as kadosh, but still, maybe it doesn't have kedusha as sefer, but like it's still wrong. It's still wrong. Now, anyone want to give me a compromise position that would split the difference?
You could be maybe like a fence. Like if you start sitting on the same bench.
Good, right? So you could, and we'll see in a moment that Yeshua is absolutely right. There are a lot of poskim are going to say, look, there's the formal halacha, and then there's what is right to do. But someone tried to split the difference based on the two formulations that we had. Right? Again, this might not be a formal approach, but it is the approach that many poskim will take, and as we'll see. What might poskim say? Other svarim don't have the chiyuv of kavod, but you shouldn't degrade them. What would that look like a halacha?
You have to just put a little napkin.
Correct. That maybe when it comes to Sefer Torah, we'll paskin that you need 3 tvachim or 10 tvachim. Because if something has actual kedusha, so you need to set it apart. But if it's other svarim, so it doesn't technically have the same kedusha as Sefer Torah. Maybe. But still, it has Shem Hashem, it has Torah in it, it's wrong to degrade it. So those you should be makil, but not entirely. Meaning, you can be makil up to a kolshu or a tefach, but don't mamish it in the same bench, right? That would be a way of sort of splitting the difference, saying they're not really kadosh, so you don't have the same positive chiyuvim, but you're not going to degrade them. So continue in the Beis Yosef, and he says, Kav Oda Rav Manoach, Idam Rididavka Sefer Torah. Some people say it's only Sefer Torah. Avol Svara Macherem Lo Mechmarin Bo. But other svarim we don't have to be machmir. Now, guys in my share, give me a svara of why our svarim might have kedushas Sefer Torah for these purposes, such that you would have to be machabed them.
Kal Chomer or
Give me a makor, really, not really svara. Give me a source. Give me a source. Or guys who are in Psolovsky shir on Sunday. Give me a source. What shita in the Rishonim would indicate that maybe other svarim do have kedusha Sefer Torah? What? The Rush. Thank you. The Rush. Right? The Rush says that maybe you're makayim the mitzvah of ksivat Sefer Torah by writing of other svarim. Right? By the writing of other svarim, which tells you that it's already in the same parsha as the Sefer Torah. Now, that may be only handwritten svarim, printed svarim is even more complicated. But however you take it, Rabbi Minoach assumes that you don't have to be machmir. That you don't have to be machmir by other svarim. But, skip for a moment to the Radbaz. Look at the Radbaz. See the Radbaz? Chel Gimel Tshuva Tav Kuf Tesvav? Over here? Over here. I'm going to pass them down. So look at the Radbaz. The Radbaz says as follows: Sha'alta mimeni yedid nafshi. Who's the Radbaz, by the way? David, you're good. You're halfway there. Or I guess 3/4. Reb David Ben. Good. You got the Reish Dalet and Bet. It's a Zion, man. Zion. Zimra. David Ben Zimra. He's from what country? Egypt. He's from Egypt. Zimra, really good Ashkenazi sounding name to you? Come on. David Ben Zimra from Egypt. He is 15th century. Okay.
All right.
So he says, "Shalta meni yedid nafshi. Ma leishav agavi mitos avsal itztaba sheish sifrei Talmud uposkim v'chayotze behem sheyesh kama bnei adam she'en makpidin bazeh." Are you allowed to sit in the bench with gemaras, poskim, things like that? Because I've seen a lot of people who just don't care. Tshuva. So he says, "Ani machmir al atzmi." I am machmir on myself. Now, this is already what Yeshua said. Or what did Yeshua say?
On himself. That doesn't mean.
Good. But what is Yeshua? Meaning what?
If you start sitting on the same bench as like other svarim,
Yeah, and you're going to see this in a lot of poskim, which is that they're going to say, look, it's not technically, it might not be technically usher, but sometimes in halacha, now I want to point this out, right? This is a methodological point. Generally, when people think of psikat halacha b'sharat chak, right, which is any case extenuating circumstances in psak, they usually think of leniency. Now, what is psikat halacha b'sharat chak? It means that, right, following the normal rules of psak, I would paskin X, but because of extenuating circumstances, I'm going to paskin Y, like the less likely position. 90% of the time, poskim do that in the direction of kula. But sometimes you'll see that poskim actually do it l'chumra. And I want you to realize that, right? Sometimes poskim will say, look, really make it in its mutter, but there are reasons why I want it to be usher. So I'm not going to say it's usher, but I'm going to hedge usher. I'm going to try to paskin l'chumra if I can. This is one of those sugyas where the poskim, even the ones who think it's mutter, want it to be usher.
a lot of times also in Shas Hashma, they usually do the reverse. They do
Shas Hashma, there the halacha is like that, right? The Shas Hashma, the halacha is like that. But you're right, there are certain cases like that. So he says, look, Ani machmir, that's me. I'm machmir. Why? Let's take kavod v'hidur l'toratenu ha'kedosha. Because I want to give honor to Sefer Torah. Aval gabe dina mutaru. But mikar din, it's halacha. Halacha, it's mutar. Upaska toskar b'yochanan, v'nir Zelishonam near the halach Rabbi Yochanan lagabe Rav Huna. Rizal pot near Shepose Rav Huna. He said it's a machlokas Tosfos in the Rif or Tosfos in the Rambam, and he says v'hainu taima. This is the reason Shekola poskim adam kasvu lo yeshav agami mita shesefer Torah alei. All the poskim say don't sit on the same bench or bed as the Sefer Torah. V'lo chilko im gavoa o ena gavoa mimenu. None of them distinguish whether you're higher than it or they're higher. It's higher than you. V'chein kazav bal migdal oz. Shekevin jehuskar mamar zesh or huna pa'amim v'shalosh lehuskar tefach zev. What?
It's a seminary.
It's a. They get very insulted when you say it's a seminary.
Well, what is it?
What? Because it is Beit Midrash le'nashim b'migdalos. I made this mistake once. Like I gave shir there once and then posted the shir on YU Torah and I think I put seminary in the description, and my sister-in-law yelled at me, so I switched it. But no, technically it is Beit Midrash L'Nashim B'Migdalos.
Migdalos is not like a china or
It's a strong tower.
The strong tower. What?
It's like a hesder yeshiva for girls.
Migdalos is a kibbutz, and then there is a women's Beit Midrash in the kibbutz of Migdalos. But the Migdalos is a perush from the Rambam. That's really where it comes from. Not one that was particularly popular. In fact, one that was really, 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 really unpopular. It is one of the least popular Svarim. It is the one that the poskim like ripping on more than any other Sefer. The Yam Shel Shlomo in one place, in a halachic context, no less, writes that the Migdal Oz was over Baltashchis al Hadio. That means, he violated the issue of wasting on the ink, people didn't really like him, whatever. Anyways, people didn't really like him very much.
An actual Isser?
What? Baltashchis is an actual Isser.
Oh, for Baltashchis on Dio, I thought it was like a separate.
No, he's saying for using ink to write that thing. Not all the poskim love him very much, okay? Whatever, but the Radbaz quotes him. So he writes, so he says, Alpha Beach is Kiru Yerushalmi and Allah. He says, the Yerushalmi's tefach thing, we don't paskin that way. And he says, the Shabbos becomes a komos a signat shalosh karas smichtadam. He says, in general, less than 3 means nothing. It's like the ground. And the Rif doesn't write it. So he says, look, one tefach narishkeit, right? He says, maybe the Yerushalmi paskins that way, but Pashtus of the Bavli is 3 or 10, like the Beis Yosef. Which is, by the way, not surprising, because who learned at some point by the Radbaz? The Beis Yosef. Right? So that's not surprising that he might have been influenced by him, or he's influenced by him. Fine. He says, Nagu ba'osa tefach l'shar tzvarim lahaniach v'tzidenu shlo niyeh b'shaveh. He says, look, really you should paskin 3 or 10. But really, the halacha only applies to a Sefer Torah mamish. So the minhag is that a regular Sefer, a non-Sefer Torah, what do? We rely on the sheet of tefach, right?
Still like this much.
Right, a tefach, but that's the other day in the Yerushalmi. But we don't require what we need by a Sefer Torah, which is 3 or 10. And why does he say? And look at it very carefully. He says in the positive or the negative. Listen to his language. By other Svarim, we don't put it down less than a tefach, shelo nihyeh b'shaveh. So we aren't equal. But how did he start the tshuva when he was talking about Sefer Torah? Right? Right? Lateis kavod v'hidr l'torah seinu. So what does he say? Right? Meaning there's a range here. Right? There's giving honor and not degrading. He's saying regular Svarim, I'll rely on the sheet, the Mekilim, but I still want to do something, because to be actually equal, that's degrading.
And we should still require 3 then, because 3 it seems like is not so much covered as much as lack of.
That's not clear, right? Because 3 means it's not on the same bench as me anymore.
Right, but,
right?
But 1 he says
1 it's on the bench as me, it's just not equal, right?
Oh.
Right, meaning 10 it's in a different rishus. 3 it might be on the bench. Well, it might not be in a new rishus, but it's not on the bench anymore halachically. It's 3 tvachim now separate. 1, it's still on the bench halachically. It's just not equivalent to me.
Right.
Right? You see the difference? Is it equivalent to? Is it about me? Right? I can't be equivalent to it, or does it need to be in its own place? 3 and 10 are shiurim of. It's in its own rishus. It's not on the bench anymore. 1 tefach is it's not the same place I am. Right? Meaning 1 tefach is at least somewhat significant. So if you look after the ellipsis, he writes, "Minag yafeu shel yeshiv adam al mitausa sal sheish alav afilu sifrei hatalmud va'poskim." Said, I think it's a good thing to do to not sit on the same bench as even gemaras, v'chein tefillin va'afilu menachem b'toch tikon, or even tefillin in their bag. Im lo yeh gavoa tefach kedei laz is kavod v'hiddur l'chol davar shveish go kavod mitzad asma. But then he sort of switches back to the positive. So I don't know what to tell you. V'lo midina. But he said, this is not the real halacha. Because really the halacha is only about Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah is a machlokes, so you can't expand it. But I do think that what he's trying to do here, right, even if his language sort of splits around a little bit, is that Sefer Torah right? Meaning that there's these, like I said, there's these poles here, right? You don't want to degrade the Svarim, or do you want to honor them? 10 and 3 really talk about honor. Put them in a separate place, right? 1 tefach, it's still on the bench with you. It's just not equal to you. And the way he seems to split the difference is by saying, look, a Sefer Torah, 10 and 3. Everything else, like maybe Maker Din is mutter, but you don't want it to be shafet to you, right? It's just wrong, right? That's that's degrading, so do something. Right, and I think you sort of get this, right, these two different formulations, and the way he balances both is the difference between Sefer Torah and other Svarim. What would you say about the following thing? What would happen if it was kavod HaTorah to sit on the same bench as the Svarim? What would you say?
Why would that be?
Why would that be? Good. Why would that be? What would you say if I could come up with the case? What would you say?
Because you're putting the Svarim on the same level as the Torah, otherwise.
No, it's you. For you, did I say Sefer Torah and Svarim?
Yeah.
What would it? Sorry. What would it be? What if it be a kavod HaTorah for you to sit on the same bench as the Svarim, naniach? What would you say?
You might have thought they were lower down. You're putting them on the same level.
So, what do you think? Would it be mutter or aser? If it would be lekavod HaTorah.
That seems to really have something to it. Like, there seems to really be some discussion with Kavod Sefer Torah and not with the other things. So it seems like you should do that. Okay, so continue in the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef has this case which comes up a lot in the poskim where they really seem to be testing the limits here. And he said, because of Rav Rabbeinu Manoach. Right, back to the line we said. He said, "Is the Amri Dafka Sefer Torah?" Some say only by Sefer Torah. Svar Machirim Lo Mechmirin Bu. B'tov Lahachmir. Other Svarim, maybe Kardin, it's mutter, but it's better to be Machmir. Okay, we've seen that. But he says, "V'dafka shelo b'shas beis hamedrash." But that's only if it's not learning time. Aval b'zman beis hamedrash. But when it's learning time, v'makom tsar la talmidim. And what? What's makom tsar la talmidim?
It'll be a distress to the people.
No, that's not sa'ar, not with an ayin, just
It'll
tsar.
be a distress to the people.
Yeah, because it's squished. It's squished. Meaning, the base medrash is overflowing. There's 1 million talmidim there. Overflowing. There's nowhere to put the books because there's so many svarim and so many talmidim, and there's nowhere to put things.
And 7 sets of Torah Tamimas.
And 7 sets of Torah Tamimas, exactly. Right, so then he says, Mutter leishev b'shaveh im ha-svarim ve'ha-perushim. Then when it comes to other svarim, it is mutter. Then, right, when it's not a Sefer Torah, it's mutter to sit on the same bench. V'kach hayanoeg arav Rabbeinu Meshulam. And that's what Rabbeinu Meshulam says. Why do you think this is? Right? Explain this difference to me. That he says by a Sefer Torah, it's always aser, but by other svarim, it's mutter to sit on the bench if the base medrash is overflowing and squashed and the only place to sit is on the bench with svarim. What's the logic to that compromise position? What's the logic there? And now part of it is just a compromise, but what's the logic? Spell it out for me.
There's no real significance to that we would need to not sit.
Good. So part of it is that he thinks me'ikar adin that maybe by other svarim we don't paskin that way. So shasat chak you're going to make right? This could just be look. We'd rather you not sit on the same bench with svarim, but like shasat chak we can be mekel. That's a general rule in psak. But there may be more here, and this is what Menashe Klein points out. I don't think I gave it to you inside. No, I didn't give it to you inside. Right? He said, maybe there's something else going on. He said, look, by a Sefer Torah, I'll say it a little bit different than him. By a Sefer Torah, we've said the halacha might be that you have to honor it, right? Which means that you actively have to put it somewhere else. Okay? That is always true. A Sefer Torah, that's always true. But other svarim, right? What did we say? Why did the poskim want to be machmir? At least minimally, right? At least nominally. Why do they want to be machmir?
Because as a fence, you still have.
Right, either as a fence or because, but you see, what are they saying? Because, like, right, you don't want to, like, degrade. You don't want to on the same level as you, right? But he says, what happens if the reason you're sitting on the bench with the Torah, because let's sharpen it, right? Exactly. Meaning, you might think if someone's sitting on the bench with the Gemara, right, and just letting it sit there next to them, you might look at it and say, like, he doesn't really value Torah. But if the reason, what? Or something, I mean, it looks like he doesn't, right, show respect to the Torah. But what happens? The base medrash is overflowing, right? And like, you see that there are Gemaras like squished on the side of the benches because like every inch in the base medrash is packed, right? Packed to the gills, right? Every bench, you don't have the option of standing, right? Like the benches are like shoved together, the people standing in between the benches, right? Like imagine the case, right? There's no room, the bookshelves are all overflowing because of all the svarim that everyone has, right? What is someone going to look in? Is someone going to look in and say, oh, those are people who really just don't care about Torah, right? Like, oh, there's 10,000 people packed in the base medrash that just fit 50, right? Right?
So it's
What?
a science question?
It's not Marzan. Marzan's the wrong one, right? Meaning, again, what do they say? They're saying by other svarim, you don't really have to do it. Why do we say do it? Because like it's degrading. But if it's clear from context, that the reason you're sitting on the bench is not that you're degrading the Gemara, but because, right? Like, or let's spell it out a little bit more, right? Let's say you go to Shir, right? And what happens? I tell everybody, listen, come to Shir, bring your Gemara, right? Bring a menachot, bring a moed katan, right? Bring a Rambam. Right? Right? If 10,000 means everyone has a menachot, a moed katan, right? And a Rambam. And what happens? I say, okay, everyone open your menachos. And what does everybody do? They're like, right? So like, where are they putting it? So they like squish it in between the Talmidim so they can open the Gemara. Right? No one's going to look at it and say, oh, he doesn't have covered, right? They're going to see. It's sheer, right? Hanami. But you understand the logic. Right? Meaning, that's all I'm saying, right? Meaning there's but why aren't we willing to rely on it by Sefer Torah? That's right, that's the question. Right? So it could right, so I think that's what they're getting at. Meaning you could take this it's a pshara, because like Shasat Chak, or you can say no. Sefer Torah, where I actively need to put it in a separate place. Yeah, you can't just sit there and say, oh, context proves it. But the chumrah that we've accepted in other svarim to say at least don't degrade it, that is more contextually defined. Because if you can look at the context and say it's clearly not degrading it, right? He's opening his menacha, that's why he had to put his moed katan down for a second. Right? Right? Yeah. So, right, again, when you're in the level of am I degrading it, right, is this a negative? You can look and say, context indicates that this is not like that. But if there's a positive obligation to set the Sefer Torah aside, I can't just waive that because I'm squashed in a shear.
Right, but that seems like the idea of not sitting on the same bench as another Sefer. It comes from the idea of not degrading the whole concept of Torah, nothing to
correct.
Do with individual
right, and that might be the other way of putting this, right? Exactly as Yeshua says, is that this might also be the difference, right? That it could be, right? Another way of putting this, right, is that by Sefer Torah, it's a din in the hefza of the Sefer Torah. It's used very lamdish language, meaning the Sefer Torah itself is kadosh. Right? With all the halachos that go along with that. Other svarim may not technically be kadosh. Right? They might not technically be halachic svarim. The reason that I don't want to sit on the same bench is because it's a statement about Torah. Right? But if it's a statement about Torah, so again, context. Torah context could redefine the way I'm mityaches svarim. I think that's another way of putting it, right? Either this is the positive-negative distinction, or, right, it's about, is the chiyuv derived from the object itself, right? In which case, nothing's going to change that. The object demands respect, right? Or is it about, let's say, you could say cheptzegara if you want, right? Meaning, is it about the object demands respect, or is it that, like, my orientation towards Torah should be one of respect? Like, it's not that it's object per se. It doesn't have kedusha as a sefer. It's a printed sefer, right? But still, I mityaches to it as my Gemara, right? I relate to it as a Gemara, so I shouldn't be sitting on the same bench. But if it's clear that I'm relating it to it as Torah, and the reason it's on the bench is because I'm turning my menachot and I have to leave the moed katan on the side until we get to it in shir, so I switch, right? So those, I think, are two potential ways to justify it, right? One is to distinguish between positive and negative. Well, three ways. Positive, negative. One is me'ikar adin versus shasat chak, which is just like, sort of a halachic compromise. Or it's what Yeshua is saying, that Sefer Torah, the formal halachos, 3 tvachim, 10 tvachim comes because there's actual kedusha la sefer, right? The chefza of the Sefer Torah demands kavod. But other svarim, they're not really kadosh. The reason I don't do it is because, I'm not supposed to relate to them that way, right? I'm not supposed to relate to that which represents Torah in a degrading way. But once you're talking in sort of this more generic, right, person orientation way, right, how do I relate to Torah so we could be a bit more, right, flexible, right, and define it contextually. Right? So I think that even though maybe the Radbaz presents it more as a compromise position, there's actually a logic, right? Like a formal logic that actually makes sense, or at least a conceptual, I don't know how formal it is, a conceptual logic that can distinguish between this 310 for Sefer Torah, minimal for Svarim, and this heter of when it comes to other Svarim, it's legitimate if you don't have a choice, right? Because you're learning and the base measure is overflowing, to take that into context and allow you to leave your Gemara on the bench. Right? Again, I don't know which formulation you like, right? Meaning the simplest shot in the Radbaz is just a compromise position, right? The other possibility is, right, either this positive versus negative, or this, is it about the chefza of the Sefer Torah, which is actually kadosh, or like I need to show respect, and right, it's about an attitude, right? And attitudes, obviously, right, context can affect that. I think that's another way of formulating this. Now, in Masechah Sofrim, this is the end of the Beis Yosef, he notes that another sort of derivation of this halacha one line before that. If you want to see the negative formulation, the Orchos Chaim is really like that. The Beis Yosef quotes it, right? Because of Orchos Chaim, Besof Svaro, V'nir she'in lo hakel b'davar shlo yireh kimizalzel b'chavar asfarim. Right? He says, don't be makel because it looks like you're deriding it. Then he says that one of the things I don't want you to do, and this is also highlights, this is more of a broad halacha, is this. Well, I'll just do it, This is not to degrade my Gemara, this is to indicate what he's talking about, is don't put it, right, al gabe arkuvotav, adav alav, right? Don't put your sefer on your knees, and then your arms leaning on top of it, right? You're not supposed to do that, right? Which is also...
It doesn't seem so comfortable.
I know, it's really quite painful even for me to get into this, but, but I guess for some... I don't know why people wanted to sit that way, but apparently they wanted to, okay? That's not... Okay. Let's skip down here. Now, the lot of the poskim, again, whether it's formal or not, do seem to try to be sort of express this in different ways. I'll say this outside. So, look down at the Beersheba. Beersheba at the end here. I'll read from the middle. He says, "Amnam le'inyan shuradin ayashar yafeh kivein v'yafeh horarav ma'noch zaljav la'achmer gam b'shar svarim." He said, you should be machmer by other svarim. Right? That's tavo alav bracha. He says, because really it's probably mutter, and it's only a churma, so for tefach it's fine. But he says that there's a minhag, right? He just says that there was a minhag to be machmir by chumashim more than other svarim. Right? Now, why would you say that?
It's actual Torah.
Yeah, right? Meaning, again, it's not formally true, but you understand that once you're talking in the level of, right? Content, you can understand that it's not technically different, right? I mean, either you think printed svarim have kedusha or you don't. But still, right, substantively, in terms of how I relate to it, Chumash is different, though he does note that there might be a lumdish difference, and that is the rush, right? Is that it's possible that the reason to be machmer by Chumashim is the rush, is that since the rush says that you can be yotzei, the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, or part of the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, if you take the rush, is about writing other svarim, so that indicates that maybe there is kedusha to printed svarim, and once there's kedusha to printed svarim, memela, Chumashim have a higher... Right. Once there's halachic significance to printed svarim, so memela chumachim will have a more machmir halacha. Now, there were weird halachos that came up in like the Pischei Tshuva. There was a minhag. We'll see it. Okay, you know what? Let's see. How much time do we have? Let me just summarize the halacha. Let's just see the halacha. Again, there aren't so many conceptual issues. I think what conceptual issues are we've sort of fleshed out. I said there's like these small little chakiras in it. But let's just do the halacha because, this way you'll know. When someone tells you, you're sitting on the same bench as the Sefer. So how do we actually paskin? So look at Shulchan Aruch. He says, Asher leishav amita shesefer Torah alei. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins l'chomra. V'kol sheken shasol aniach al gabei karka. V'hu adin shar svarim. V'afilu Madrega shows in the Aaron. Kodesh shows on Yach Svarim. V'lo yiniach Adam Sefer Torah Birkav Shnetzil Yadav Allah nearly do it in Shara Svarim. So the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam both say you should be machmir both by Sefer Torah and by other Svarim. But is that Meikra Din? Right? Doesn't seem to be. Right? The poskim assume that's l'chumra at least by other Svarim, but Meikra, right? Lechatchila we tell you really should be machmir. But look at the Taz. The Taz quotes in the Tshuva of the Rambam. Chuvas Ramasim and Lamandalid, Yalef Mizesh, and Lesev al Teva Sheish B'Sifrei HaKodesh. Right, here's another Shaila. What happens, can you sit on a bench that has not a bench, on a, can you sit on a box that has Svarim in it? What do you think?
Yes.
Why?
Or on.
On?
On a box that has Svarim in it?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
So what do you think?
It's like on top of it.
So he says, look, you might have thought, so he said, why would you have thought Lukula? What would have been the logic, Lukula?
There's separations. You have nothing to do.
Yeah, I mean, they're in another Rishus, right? They're in another Rishus. We know this from what halacha? What halacha can we prove this from? I don't expect you to know this. But what halacha can we prove that it's considered different Rishus?
Toma, so Gemara's Vachim, there's, if you have a...
So specifically by Svarim. By Svarim. You're right, in Tumah we find this all the time, but by Svarim. Meaning, okay, you're right, one of the proofs that the Taz brings is Tumas OL. Good. Right, what's the other one? What's the other one? So the other one they bring is that when it comes to Svarim, right, you're not allowed to have intercourse in a room with Svarim, but you can put it away in a box. Right, so we know that in the context of Svarim this is true also. What?
That's the thing.
Yes, it's a thing.
Why? I thought we don't view intercourse as bad. So like what?
It's not bad. It's a wonderful thing still, right?
So if it's a mitzvah, so then like why can't you do it?
It's a mitzvah. Do it in shul when everyone's there. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Come on. What? Because just because it's a mitzvah, right, doesn't mean that, right, that's still an erva. Erva is still erva, right? Erva is still something that is, right? No? It's so easy to say it's a mitzvah, but like, really? Really? Does anyone else understand this halacha? I understand this halacha. I don't know.
I understand this halacha, but I don't know, are we just like playing with Talmud right now? Like, are we trying to figure out what the Talmud and the mitzvah are?
I mean, this is actual halacha. It's not like a...
Yeah, I know, I'm saying like, it's an actual halacha, but like, I don't know, like, who knows the Talmud for these things?
Because like erva is not supposed to be. Right, think about it. Right, there's nothing wrong with taking a shower, right? With being unclothed, but like you don't learn Torah while you're taking a shower. You don't daven while you're
learn, but to hide the Sefer.
I don't understand why not. Torah is good. Taking a shower for Shabbos. Okay, we'll say it's for Shabbos. Right, it's a mitzvah. So why don't you learn while you're taking a shower? Because you're not supposed to learn in daven when your erva is exposed. Erva is something that has to be separated from kedusha. Right, that's just the halacha.
You can't like sing Tehillim while showering.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right?
Go ahead and sing your Go ahead and sing your
I know, David doesn't sing Sukkim in general. You might sing them in the shower. Right?
Open the curtain after like plushies on the floor.
Are you not familiar?
Now,
I don't sing in the shower. According to what we said before,
yeah.
hypothetically speaking, let's say like you have a tikkun or something like that. But someone else was like, learning the language alongside. So it's really like it's a little mission. That's all that means.
Well,
you have like a tikkun. You're practicing.
Yeah.
Someone else is sitting next to you. They also go over it with you. They left. They put the tikkun down. Hypothetically speaking, if you just have the tikkun next to you on like a couch or a bench.
Good. So that's an interesting, right? That's another question. Is it you can't sit down there lechatchila? What happens? You have to get up if it's there, right? Right. So some of the poskim want to distinguish that possibly, right? Possibly, maybe it's less ganai. But guys, tell me why. Why does the Taz reject this possibility? Right? Why does he think you can't sit on a bench with svarim in it? What's his logic? Right?
Wait, you said a bench with svarim in it?
A box, a bench, svarim inside, whatever. Doesn't matter. Right? What's the logic? Tell me. What's the logic
of not sitting on a box with svarim?
Yeah. What's the logic?
Because it's still degrading.
Yeah. Meaning, he said, right? Remember we talked about, maybe a different rishus gives it kavod, right? That's not always true. Right? He says, look, right? You still have to look at this substantively, right? Yes, it's in a different rishus. No, if you're sitting on top of it, right, it doesn't help that it's in different rishus, right? There's formal here, and then there's substantive. Okay, fine. The Shach says. Now the Shach paskins as follows. The Shach paskins that even by Sefer Torah he thinks you only have to be makbid me'ikra din like the Yerushalmi of a tefach, but lechatchila he wants to be makbid 3 and 10. By the way, who's the Shach? Who's the Shach? Guys, Shach. Who is he?
The Shach is the Taz's puncher.
Thanks. Reb Shabtai Cohen, Rappaport. Right? This is the Kohanim.
1800s.
Now he writes as well that it seems like, right, he paskins from Rabbi Noach and the like that other svarim are probably not as from Meikar Adin, and therefore it's best not to be machmer. But he says the heter of the base medrash, the busy base medrash, we paskin that way. Okay, we paskin that way. Another halacha they bring up in this context. Okay. Just to sort of throw out some of the issues. The Pischei Tshuva quotes from the Tiferet LaMoshe. What happens if a pile of svarim fall on the floor? Right? Is it better to pick them up one by one? Right? Right? Or can you pile them up on the floor and then pick them all up? What do you think?
Pile them up on the floor.
Good. Why?
Because the last sefer to be on the floor is always going to be.
Right. But what is this similar to? Why is he bringing it up in this context? Because it's similar to, right, the heter of the base medrash. Right, he's saying, look, normally we don't want svarim on the floor because that's degrading according to everybody. But what is the reason I'm leaving on the floor is to pick up more svarim quickly, right? Meaning I could either pick up one by one, right, or I could pile them on the floor. Again, if it's a contextual halacha, am I degrading it? So his argument is, well, look, if it's going to be more degrading for me to, right, not leave it on the floor, meaning go down, pick it up, go down, pick it up, right? Instead of just stacking them on it so I can pick it up as fast as possible, context is going to define what's normally degrading as kavod. And again, right, I think that halacha also highlights that whatever you think about this halacha, there is a certain level of contextualization that is required, right? It's not a formal isser to put it on the floor or put it on the bench. It's don't degrade svarim. And that means that sometimes what would be degrading is, in fact, perfectly mechubad. Right? I think that's why the Pischei Tshuva brings us up here, because conceptually they're the same, right? Anything that is contextual rather than formal, right? Anything that is about attitude, right, can be contextually redefined. Now he quotes this. There is this weird halacha that's quoted in this context, but in the Tshuva Me'ava he writes that they used to take old svarim. I think this should be obvious to everyone that this is usher. They used to take old svarim, sell them to fish sellers, and like they would wrap the fish or something in like old svarim. He says that's bad. I don't know if anyone in Havamid of doing this. Don't do that. That's just fascinating.
You see the paper, it's like, oh wow,
like a month ago, I went to Meir Sharon with some friends. They went to like one of those, classic stores where they have like the kippas and everything like that. One of my friends accidentally dropped a sefer that he was holding, and like quickly rushed to like pick it up and give it a kiss. And then the guy who was there must have been some like young bacher that started going like, it has like no kedusha. Hypothetically speaking, since you haven't used it like yet, you could still like step on it or whatever because you haven't used it yet. And is that like?
Wait, what was this? On a what?
As in like it was
a brand new what?
It was a brand new sefer that had fallen. So like
no,
okay.
No. Okay. Anyways, no. Okay.
How about the kissing part?
Let me make two last points. Okay, two last points. These aren't particularly conceptual, but just to sort of fill out the halacha l'maisa. What happens if you have like those two-part bench couches? What do you think? Right? Can you sit on the same bench or the same couch if it's like?
Is it just like what people relate to as us, or is it just like?
Yeah, right. Pachot yoter, right? So he says. So what does he say?
If there's an ottoman side, probably.
Right, or the multiple like chairs that are like tied together or something. What would you say?
I don't know. It depends what people think.
And what do they think? Well, you
I
tell
don't
me.
know. It's a Matthias question.
And so what do you think?
What, like a couch with multiple cushions or something?
Or like a multi-piece couch that like can be detached but is currently attached, or multiple pieces to a bench that are technically different pieces, but like in order to make sure that they don't move so much, you tie them together or they snap together or something. What do you think in all those cases? Just tell me, Svara, what do you think?
Probably not good. I feel
Yeah, it's probably mutter, right? That's what the Shevet HaLevi
I'm
writes.
saying it's probably
Right? He says it's probably right. Because he said, look, they're different. Like, the fact that they are, like, attached at some level, like, at the end of the day, this is, are you sitting in the same bench? Like, the fact that they're attached, or this is, right?
No,
He thinks it's true.
It's true to this. You said that it's just
Good. So you could have distinguished between Sefer Torah and other Svarim, right? You could have said maybe by Sefer Torah it's usher because it's formal, right?
No. By
Maybe.
Sefer Torah, maybe it's fine. No, it's just as bad. But there's a contextualization issue which people relate to. Let's say two sides of the same couch is one couch.
So I don't know. So he's talking about. So Shevet HaLevi says like you have two benches that like are technically attached, but like they look like different benches.
Oh, fine.
So he said probably mutter, right? Like,
the same bench, they look
right? Okay, but again, there's not like.
There's a clear separation between the two.
When you go on a couch.
The only, let's see.
Two couches there.
Okay, the other last point is that the poskim assume kedavar pashut. I know you've probably heard this, but all the poskim assume this is wrong. Is there a difference between the sefer lying down or standing up? What do you think?
Yes.
So people say yes, but the Tzitz Eliezer and all the poskim pretty much assume no. Like, right? Because if it was, what's the proof that there's no difference?
No.
Well, also just like no one ever brought it up, right? The solution in the Gemara and all the poskim is put it 3 tvachim above, put it 10 tvachim above, put it in another place. They never say just stand it up, which would be a much easier head there, right?
The reason
So
why we have it standing up is probably just
for space, whatever it is. Okay, so let me just summarize it quickly. Again, I said this is not a super complicated sugya, but it was a good for a one day and a sort of a bit of a crazy day. So let's just summarize it, right? The Gemara brings 2 shitot. One shita is you can sit on the same bench even with the Sefer Torah. The other is you can't. You just can't put it on the floor. The other is you can't even sit on the same bench. We said there's 2 basic ways to understand that machlokes. One is do you have to actively show kavod versus don't degrade, meaning don't put it on the floor, or actively, right? Don't let it be on the bench, or it's just degradation, different madrego. We said one potential nafkamina would be that if you paskin l'chomra, is it that you just can't have it equal to you? Right? Or do you need to put it 3 or 10 tvachim, which are already shiurim, which are considered a different makom? If it's about a separate place, you would say probably 3 or 10. If it's just don't degrade it, probably kol shu or 1 tefach. We noted there may be a difference between Sefer Torah, where we gave 3 formulations, right? Either it's really asur, other svarim are lakula, mikra adin, or Sefer Torah is a chepsa shel kedusha, other svarim it's about your attitude. Or by other svarim you can't degrade them. By Sefer Torah you have to be mechabed, right? The nafkamina that the post can bring is that really it's not clear we paskin, right? But probably we paskin l'chorma, like the Rambam against Tosfos. But by other svarim there's a lot of room to be mekil because we probably paskin mikra din l'kula. So the poskim for one of those 3 reasons say by Sefer Torah 3 or 10. By other svarim tefach is fine. By Sefer Torah there's probably no room to make in the base medrash case. By other svarim, where we said either it's about not degrading them or it's about your attitude towards Torah in general, there's more room for contextualization. And therefore, the reason you're sitting on the same bench is because you have an overflowing base medrash. So then there might be room to be makil when it comes to the other svarim. We noted the Taz, according to Chuvas Ramah, that even though you might have thought that if you put something in a box, so now it's a different rishus, you could sit on it. He says no, because obviously they're at the very basic level, you can't degrade them, and sitting on a sefer is pretty bad, even if it's technically in a different rishus. Right, that's pretty bad. We saw that la halacha again. The consensus of poskim seems to be that by Sefer Torah we want to be machmir 3 to 10 tvachim, but by other svarim, because of the combination that it's not clear we paskin l'chumra in general, plus it's not clear you ever need more than a tefach, we're willing to be making by other svarim. That's la halacha. There's no difference probably between svarim lying down or standing up. Conceptually, we saw from the Tiferes Moshe that this is similar to the halacha that if a bunch of svarim fall on the ground, right, and you have a choice between leaving them on the ground longer and picking them one by one, or actively piling them on the floor, which normally would be a lack of kavod. But in this case, contextually is what allows you to quickened the pace of putting them back on the table. He writes that's mutter, which makes sense from the contextual perspective, from the attitude towards Torah perspective. And then we just noted from the Shevet HaLevi that he assumes that, right, again, this is a bit more about, right, that two separate benches, which happen to be attached, but fundamentally they're different, that is going to be mutter. I agree with Gershla, you could have a shaila, right? What happens if you have a two-piece couch that, right, you look at it and it seems like a one-piece couch, right, because they're together, but formally they're different, right? You might want to say you should be machmir because of attitude, like you'll look at it as if it's one. I'm not convinced, because most people are aware of what like a multiple piece couch is. Right? Most people are aware of such things.
To it as one couch, even though
So it's not necessarily true. Okay, so Gershly, it's not 100% true, especially people who are married who don't, because there's nafka to this, right? Because one of the archakot is not to sit on the same bench. One of the archakot of nida is not to sit on the same bench as your wife when she's in nida, and we're generally makil, right, on a couch that has multiple parts when you're not on the same couch, right? So, right, people are aware that these are different. Right, they are aware of such things. There are nafka to this.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's a little bit different because they're really it's about feeling the movement, right, of your spouse and right, and they're you don't really
I'm thinking
right.
if you just look at the couch and you ask them how
Right.
much couch are there.
No, but there's different seats. Like most people, if you ask people to sit down on a couch, how many people are going to sit down on the crack between cushions? Very few people, unless it's very crowded.
I understand.
Most people aren't even going to sit on the same cushion if they can avoid it, right? Like it's uncomfortable.
Most
right?
people,
We all know, like, basic like, etiquette. You sit as other people as possible. Right? Right? You're laughing, but you know it's totally true, right? Maybe Gersley doesn't know that, but... No, it's like people do know the difference. Like,
I know
right?
they know the difference, but it's like...
No, I'm saying, like, people are aware. People, like I'm saying, you go to a couch, first things people do is, like, you don't sit in the same cushion, right? You sit... you give people their space, and only if you're squished, like, then you...
I understand.
Then you decide how close are you to the people on the couch, and is it legitimate for you to squish off, right? Like, that's the...
That's very dishonest, because the same thing would happen if, like, there's one bench. Like, if there's a bench that can fit 3 people, the 2 people that sit down would sit down on the opposite sides of the bench.
Correct.
But you would still say you couldn't sit on that bench, you couldn't sit
And if they don't, you think it's creepy, right?
Yes, I'm saying if this is how people relate to it, and people relate to it as
Okay,
an entity.
I hear. We could be done on it. You're right. We could definitely think about it. Anyways, like I said, I don't think this is a super complicated subject. It is halacha-theory. I think there's some interesting conceptual questions, but for today, it was.
Sefer Torah would have to be elevated.
Yeah. So the halacha, we would say if you had the Sefer Torah, right, it'd be elevated. What?
3 or 10.
3 or 10. That's what the post can say. 3 or 10.
And then
Right?
Sfarim, just like a...
What's tefach?
Yeah.
Right? Tefach usually, that's what they'd be machmir or whatever. There's the other day in the Yerushalmi, but generally say to try for a tefach.
Like keep it on the handrail and bench.
Right, the handrail, whatever. Right? Look, I think most people, this is right, like a Sefer Torah, right? I mean, how often do you see people take a Sefer Torah and like sit on a bench with it, like,
You can have a small one.
What? Yeah, so don't. Right, don't. Okay, guys. Shkoyach.